Whether we truly believe that we are part of an imitation of the cosmos, or simply use this idea as a metaphor for our relationship with the everyday world, is less important to us than the possibilities that such concepts offer. Metaphor or fact, they give us a language with which we can engage in dialogue with the universe and indicate a place from which we can begin. In either case, life with all its twists and turns is based on a certain program, a code of reality that translates possibilities into reality. This code is belief. If we learn how to form the right belief, then our ideas about what is possible for us and what is not will change forever. In other words, in a world based on belief, anything is possible. A miracle accessible to one is accessible to all. Although our bodies undoubtedly belong to this world, the life force that expresses itself through our bodies is actually located somewhere else, as a much greater reality that we are unable to see from our vantage point. There is a subtle, elusive, yet significant difference between working toward a result and thinking and feeling in terms of that result. When we perform work aimed at something, we embark on an endless, never-ending journey. Although we can identify milestones and set goals that bring us closer to our intended achievement, in our minds or thoughts, we are always on the way to the goal. That is, in a state of approaching the goal, not in a state of achieving it. Research leading to the conclusion that observation influences reality provides two keys to how to translate the possibilities of the mind into the reality of our world. This research allows us to draw the following two conclusions. 1. Reality changes if we, rising above all doubts, focus on it. 2. The more we focus, the greater the scale of the changes that occur. These scientific observations confirm the same principles that were shared in language far removed from science by the great teachers of the past. That is why we must enter into the image, our heart's desire, our dream, our goal, and think from it. When we focus on what our life would be like if our dreams had already come true, we thereby create within ourselves the conditions that enable our mentally realized dream to catch up with us in reality. Perhaps the best way to illustrate such a beautiful and profound truth is to give an example. This story begins with Neville Goddard in his New York office, describing the power of imagination and conviction to a female entrepreneur who came to him for advice and consultation. After explaining to his visitor the philosophy of life based on response and giving her instructions on how to achieve it, Neville was very surprised that his principles were immediately confirmed, and from a source he had not even expected. The woman was accompanied by her 9-year-old grandson, who lived with his parents in another state but visited his grandmother from time to time. As they were leaving the office, the boy suddenly turned to Neville and said excitedly, "I know what I want, and now I know how to get it." Both the consultant and the boy's grandmother were surprised by this statement. Neville, of course, immediately asked a perfectly logical question. What exactly did the boy want so passionately? The answer that followed did not surprise the grandmother, as she had obviously discussed this topic with her grandson more than once. He wanted a puppy. "Now, every night before I go to bed, I'll pretend that I have a dog and that we're going for a walk," the boy declared. Unrelenting as always, the grandmother once again listed all the reasons why he should get this idea out of his head. That his parents would not allow it, that his father did not like dogs, and that the boy was too young to take care of an animal. He would not get a dog, and that was that. This situation remained unchanged for about 6 weeks, after which the woman called Neville in a state of great agitation. The fact is that after visiting Neville, the boy began to put into practice everything he had heard during the consultant's conversation with his grandmother. At the time, they thought he was playing with toys, but he was absorbing every detail of their conversation. So every night, before going to sleep, he would imagine that the dog he had been given was lying next to him on the bed, putting what he had heard into practice. The main thing here is that in life he behaved and felt as if the dog was already with him. In his conviction, this boy lived the imaginary event as if it were real, and his imagination was so vivid that when he, quote, stroked the dog, he could really feel its fur. The irony of fate is that shortly after that, the school where the boys studied announced an essay contest in support of the, quote, Week of Kind Treatment of Animals initiative. The students in the class had to write an essay on the topic, Why I Would Like to Have a Dog. After a special jury read and evaluated all the essays, this boy was awarded first prize. He received a charming collie puppy as a gift. Having witnessed all the events that followed one after another and stemmed from one another, the boy's parents recognized that something greater and far more powerful than their feelings in this situation had taken place in their lives. The boy's parents' hearts melted, and they happily welcomed their son's new four-legged friend into their home. Although what happened in the story described can undoubtedly be attributed to chance and coincidence, what happened next makes us pause and take a closer look at its hidden meaning. After the woman told Neville that her grandson had received a collie puppy as a reward, she told him something else, so to speak, for dessert. This was the link that tied everything together. The fact is that all the time her grandson was obsessed with the idea of a puppy, he knew exactly what kind of puppy he wanted. A collie puppy, and no other. One of the reasons why this story is both touching and deeply impressive is that the little boy was able to grasp and apply in practice the simple ideas he heard in the conversation between a man he didn't know, Neville, and his grandmother. But the most important thing is that he was able to separate Neville's philosophy from the problems his grandmother had brought up. Although both spoke an adult language and discussed ideas as they applied to the adult world, he was able to identify the basic principles designed to help his grandmother in her business and apply them in his own life to get the collie puppy he so desperately wanted. And here we can say with confidence, if a child can do it, so can adults. The main thing is to discard and remove from your path all judgments, assessments, and beliefs about what is possible and what is not, and not to prevent this simple basic law of reality from being realized in our lives. Indeed, if belief is the most powerful force in the universe, then, when a 9-year-old boy in this universe gets the puppy of his dreams, the very puppy he imagined, why should we expect anything other than what we really want? The secret here is that the boy acted and behaved in his imagination as if he already had this puppy. That is, he lived a life conditioned by the result of his imagination. And in this imagination, the puppy was real. The 19th century psychologist and philosopher William James reminds us how easy and simple it is to apply this principle in real life. If you want a certain quality in life, act as if you already have it. If you want something, behave as if you have already received it. According to Neville, acting in this way means making, quote, your dream of the future a fact of the present. To understand why such simple things as the ability to imagine what you want and feel it as if it were real have such a powerful impact on our lives is to understand the very nature of reality. Subscribe to the channel. There are many more interesting topics ahead.